Here with more is a very interesting guest named Curt Mills, the executive director of the American Conservative magazine. Curt, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to start by clarifying what's really going on, because there's a negotiation over what's really happening on the ground in Gaza. So it would be really nice if you could just start with your analysis of what we're seeing right now on the ground.
Yeah, I think we see a tentative peace. I think the president, I was near the UN in late September last month. I think the idea that we would have anything like this seems pretty much unfathomable at the end of the month. I think the Israeli attempt to frankly murder the lead negotiators in Doha for Hamas soured Trump and the White House on the Israeli good faith in this effort, which I think was a long time coming. And Trump kind of sprung this deal on the Israelis. And the reality of this is, no matter what you think about the region, whether you're Israel skeptical person or you're an extremely pro-Israeli government, pro-Netanyahu person, the reality is the U.S. Is involved. We are the military backer. We are the diplomatic backer. We prevent the UN from taking action against Netanyahu with our veto at the UNSC. And so when the U.S. decides to do something, and this is true for President Trump or any president, Israel pretty much has to listen. So Trump's team sprung this on Netanyahu. They tentatively agreed. Trump flew on a Sunday afternoon, landed in Israel, didn't check into a hotel, went right to meetings, did meetings in Israel, did meetings in Egypt, and it made it very clear that, as everyone could see, this is very important to him. It was the biggest trip that he had done since his Middle Eastern trip in mid-May, and it seems very important to the president that the peace holds. The reality, though, is there's a lot of skepticism about ending the war among the Israeli high command. It's not just Netanyahu, it's a lot of his coalition partners. And I would say the sentiment is throughout Israeli society, because they have not met their core war objectives stated. They've not destroyed Hamas. They have not depopulated Gaza. They've not moved these people. And there's a question of whether or not they're going to accept that. And if they don't, they're going to ask the U.S. to keep getting back in.
Now, I'm still trying to make up my mind about Bibi Netanyahu himself. But since you brought it up, Curt, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about his administration, the way he's handled this conflict post the attack on October 7th, and also the ongoing allegations and case of corruption surrounding him.
Yeah, look, as to the last one first, the corruption stuff, he's been in politics a long time. I'm sure there's a little smoke there. In general, this is not my country. I'm against criminalization of politics. I think we shouldn't be indicting politicians willy-nilly. I think it has a corrosive effect on politics. I think it was bad when they indicted President Trump, in 22, 23. And I think it's bad if the administration overreacts and prosecutes President Trump's enemies now. And I think we see the effects of that, because Netanyahu is clearly in part driven to stay in power to avoid going to jail. As for Netanyahu generally, look, tactically, he's a genius. This is somebody who has been on top of Israeli society more or less since the mid-90s. There have been brief interregnums in his rules, in his reigns, I should say. But as to the strategic interest of Israel, I'm not seeing it. Yes, they have basically a menacing, powerful Air Force base in the region, but on the Arab Street, the sort of famed Arab Street, within the region, within Europe, within the US, within the Republican Party, they are hemorrhaging support. And so Netanyahu's in his 70s and presumably one day will shuffle on. And the question is he leaving behind a deeply unpopular country? And is he leaving behind what I think is basically a Jewish Pakistan, which is a sort of paranoid, psycho-religious garrison state? Yes, it has nukes. Yes, it has cards, but it is a pariah.
That's interesting. That brings us to then this split we're seeing, especially among young conservatives, people in the MAGA base, and specifically over any kind of future between the U.S. and Israel diplomatically. So my first question for you then, Curt, What do you think about the U.S.'s current position? Should we be involved in this, diplomatically? Should we be funding this effort at all? Or do you think we should take an isolationist position and say it's not our region, it's not our war, and we have nothing to do with it?
Well, I mean, the reality is we are involved at the moment, so we have to get out. My view is that we are not seen as an honest broker between the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Okay.
And if we are going to be involved in diplomacy, we shouldn't be involved on military aiding one side. I don't support arms sales to the Palestinians, and I don't support arms sales to the Israelis. I think we've tried this, and I think it has just resulted in endless bloodshed. President Trump is a highly unusual figure in American history. This is somebody with no prior government experience before becoming president. He wasn't a four-star general like Dwight Eisenhower. He sort of expressed the incoherent rage of the American public at decades of failed leadership and failed policy coming out of Washington. And a hallmark of that has been the tight U.S.-Israeli relationship. And I don't think it's working for the United States. It's a question if it works for Israel. I just said I don't think it does. But that doesn't really matter to me. Israel's business is Israel's business. And I think it should be separate from the United States.
Very interesting. I see interesting points being made on both sides because, yes, as a nation state, you want some allies and reinforcements because, yes, allies can make you stronger in certain ways, but they can also weaken you in other ways. So I'm still figuring out where I stand on that particular point. However, I do want to wrap up with you, Curt, coming back to Gaza. I just really want to see peace, no more destruction, no more bloodshed, no more airstrikes of any kind. And I'm wondering at this point if there is a realistic path to lasting peace. So what do you think about that question? And if you think there is a path to it, what does that look like?
I am more optimistic than some. I would say a lot of the president's sort of hard left critics and a lot of the more, very hardline anti-Israeli critics, as well as the extreme pro-Israel and extreme pro-right-wing Israeli critics are very skeptical if this can work. I think Trump has invested in it. And I think so much of what Netanyahu has been doing in the Trump era requires Trump's buy-in. I think we haven't really tested the scenario where Trump is actively flouting the will of Netanyahu. So if he's willing to frankly call Netanyahu's bluff, I'm not so sure what they can do. The question, though, is Netanyahu and is the Israeli high command going to do what history would indicate that they will, which is undermine the deal subtly. I mean, it wasn't the ink wasn't dry for a week on this thing before there were skirmishes, to put it lightly. People lost their lives over the weekend in Gaza. And the question is, will then Trump buy the Israeli line that basically Hamas broke this and, we need to go back into Gaza. And, again, Trump has expressed rhetoric to that effect. I don't know if he's just using the bully pulpit and sort of intimidating Hamas. And if so, fair enough. But if he actually buys, number one, all of Israel's claims about what's going on in Gaza, when we know they have not been fully truthful about that, and number two, acts on those claims with the preferred policy, I think it's disastrous for the U.S.
Understood. I completely agree with that, by the way. I think what I love about this conversation, it's just, for me as an American, it comes down to what is in our best interests from a national security standpoint. I'm an American. I've always been one. That's where my loyalty lies. And Curt, I just want to thank you for clarifying what's going on, giving us your time today, and being a voice of reason in this extremely divisive and contentious conversation.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Coming up next, a story worthy of a heist flick involving the theft of crown jewels from the very prestigious Louvre in Paris, France. Stick around for more details after the break.